I'm gonna have to be taking your car today. See, I have some top secret clown business that supersedes any plans that you might have for this here vehicle.
Let me ask you one question. Are you having fun here?
I made you some breakfast.
Where'd you put that?
I hope I give you the shits and the fucking women.
Those aren't your grandparents.
I have seen weird things come, and I have seen weird things go.
Aliens are taking over the Earth.
This may be hard for you to understand, but there is no conspiracy.
Princess, tell me what happened on Christmas 22 years ago in Lowell.
These are toxic chemicals, and the regulations state that.
Pour them right down the drain, Mr. Kim.
911 emergency. We need some help. Some people are trying to kill us.
Ooh, nice, Tomo. Thank you.
Ooh, scary. Ooh, Halloween. Ooh.
Yeah. That was an intro from Tomo, as always. Thank you, Tomo. Halloween
stuff.
It's literally Halloween. This is going out on Halloween Day, 2022.
Whoa.
Halloween.
All right, and we're back.
Yeah. How long's it been, Alan? Five months, I think.
Yeah, we're back for a Halloween
We're
special.
back for season 2 of Diminishing Returns.
This is a one-episode series. But Sol, who's that voice in the background there, talking to us?
I think it's you, Alan, isn't it?
No, that's Calvin.
Oh, shit!
Right, yes.
Oh,
Calvin, welcome back.
Yes, hello. Thank you for having me back. It's lovely to be back. I thought you were doing a bit there, Alan. I thought you were going to do like a Pazuzu.
No, I was doing
something.
a introducing Calvin bit.
Yeah, I thought we're gonna have to exorcise the ghost of Calvin. Calvin, aren't you canonically a ghost on this podcast? Didn't you die at some point?
That might be right, actually.
Yeah.
So has anything happened while we've been gone?
Not really. No.
Calvin got quite upset. He thought he was going to get a 5% tax cut, and then they took it back. He was quite upset about that.
Bastards. I voted for Liz for nothing. No, I didn't. I'm not a member of the Conservative Party.
Just to make that clear. I haven't watched any films in ages. I feel like there's nothing good coming out at the moment. Is that just
I was gonna do a triple bill at the cinema today, and then I realised I needed to watch The Exorcist.
Why?
So I couldn't go. I was really annoyed.
Why do you want to watch The Exorcist?
It's the film we're doing today, Alan, for the Halloween special. This is a
told me.
Halloween special of Diminishing Returns. It's also the start of season 2 of Diminishing Returns. Our Patreon, patreon.com/Dim Returns. Our Patreon subscribers, they voted for what film we were going to do. They couldn't decide between An American Werewolf and The Exorcist, so Calvin just picked. We couldn't be bothered doing a tiebreaker. I just said, Calvin, just choose one of them. And he wanted to do The Exorcist.
Well, I've been wanting to rewatch this for some time now, partly because I've never gotten around to watching the sequels, so this was my excuse to rewatch the first one, and I think we're going to have more to talk about here. I feel like we might be perhaps opposed in some things. I have no idea which way Alan's going to go on this film, which is kind of exciting. And also just the history of the film. There's 2 different cuts out there. I'm curious to know which you guys watched for this.
See, I watched this film a while ago, and I rewatched it a while ago, and today was my 3rd watch, and I went and found a copy online. And there was a whole bit where she was like stabbing a crucifix into her vagina and it was getting all bloody. And I was like, oh, that's, I don't remember that. So is that a director's cut that I was watching today?
Oh, no, that's
a
in the
classic
theatrical
scene.
cut.
Is it?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
I must have just blacked out from fear the first 2 times I watched it.
So, was there a bit in yours where she, like, runs down the stairs backwards on
Oh,
all fours?
that's the bit, isn't it? Yeah.
That was in the version I watched, and they also had a bit at the end where the priest and the detective have a little Casablanca beautiful friendship moment at the end.
Mm.
Well, it was fucking long, whatever I watched today, so it makes sense if it was a
It
director's
was a
cut.
long one, yeah.
I watched both of them for this because I was kind of curious because there are some, like the spider walk scene as it's known and the ending are the 2 I think most noticeable changes. Otherwise it's like little bits of dialogue here and there, but weirdly enough on the director's cut he went back in and spliced in like almost subliminal images like the face
Oh,
of
is
the
that
demon
not-
in a couple of
Is that not in the
places.
theatrical cut either? No.
In some, sorry, there are some of those,
Oh,
but
okay.
he threw in a few more
Yeah.
in quite random places. There
Do you
was
know,
one on, the oven, hood.
Yeah,
when Ellen Burstyn turns around, which is quite odd.
So, The Exorcist. It's an absolute classic piece of cinema. I didn't realise until I looked up just now. It's on IMDb's top 250 films of all time, which I find astonishing, frankly, not to give away my thoughts. Now, have I spoken about William Friedkin on our show before?
I
don't know.
No, I mean, I've been pushing for us to do Cruising on Valentine's Day for years now.
Is that his?
Yeah.
So William Friedkin, of
mental.
course, is the director of The Exorcist. He is considered one of the big directors of the 1970s, I think, who was part of that wave of proper cinema. And I hate him. And I feel like I've brought it up once or twice before. I cannot stand him. And I don't mean I don't like his films. I mean I don't like him as a person. He does my head in.
But that's it. That new wave in Hollywood in the 70s was, pretentious film twats. Basically, that's
he
what
is
it
a
was.
pretentious twat. I can't stand him. So if anyone ever listens to the Directors Guild podcast, they get people they'll get George Lucas to interview Steven Spielberg about his new film. They'll do stuff like that. So inevitably, William Friedkin has interviewed a number of people about their new film on the podcast, and he's insufferable. Every time he does it, the questions he asks, he'll talk about a film and sort of be like, "What? So this bit at the end that was clearly about this. What was that? And then they'll go "Oh, well, actually, I wanted it to be ambiguous. In my head, it was more that this was happening. Oh, yeah. Well, I knew that. It was he's just like a dick. I think he's on Calvin. Did they make a Clockwork Orange documentary on one of the Blu-rays that he's in, and he talks about the film there?
Oh, he might well have done. He does pop up on a lot of those kinds. I'm sure he's on a couple of Hitchcock documentaries, and with filmmakers talking about filmmakers, exactly as you say. Yeah.
Well, I feel like he doesn't really make films anymore. He just mills around talking about classic cinema and why it's so good.
Well, he's probably about 80 by now, isn't
he? Yeah. He's still very active in that DGA circuit, though. But I don't like him, and I hate the French Connection. I think it's shit. And
well, the thing is, right? That whole kind of new waves Hollywood 70s, I do like that. It's sort of slow and boring, and nothing much happens. And
I want to like
but
it.
They're well made, And yeah, exactly. I do like it, despite it sounds I'm being negative.
I like it when it's done well. I like The Conversation, for example.
Yeah, okay, so I watched The Exorcist, of course. I haven't seen it for years, and there was obviously loads of bits that I was like, oh yeah, I've seen that scene, I've seen that clip, whatever. But there was quite a lot in there that made me go, I don't remember this bit at all. And
yeah,
I will, but let me put my cards on the table here. I did enjoy it, despite some failings, a lack of structure, really.
Yeah.
Not much of a coherent structure, but... yeah, I in general, I was on board. I enjoyed it.
I think I can't I don't hate the film because I feel like I'm going to be playing negative Nancy on this episode. I don't hate it. I used to have, I think, a bit more of a respect for it than I did having to watch it today when I wasn't really in the mood. But I do think it's very flawed. And I think a lot of what I like about it is how inarguably it was, influential, directly upon The Evil Dead, for example. Some of my favorite films clearly took a lot from The Exorcist, so I have to give it some degree of acknowledgement, I suppose.
I feel like we're going to be on quite a similar page here, Sol, because I much like you, I think it's the film has clearly influenced so much of its genre. I mean, any kind of just family move to a house and a demon possesses someone, or is just living there, or exactly. I mean, it's. I think
Poltergeist was a one-to-one rip-off of a Twilight Zone episode, which predated The Exorcist by about 20 years.
Well, I know, and Rosemary's Baby was out before this as well. It's there's stuff that came before. I was interested, Alan. I just want to go back to Alan's point on the looseness of the structure, because
that's what
think
did my head in today. That's why I'm in a bit of a bad mood. I used to have more of a respect. Like, of course, The Exorcist's okay, even if I don't really like it. But it was the structure today where I was like, oh my god, it's just they just keep introducing new elements, but then it's not like escalating anything. It's just like, oh, now the demon's like gonna pretend to be his mum for a bit. All right.
Well, a lot of that I think comes from Friedkin's directive because the film, the screenplay, is written by William Peter Blatty, who also wrote the book. He also produced the film. And apparently when he first handed in his first version of the screenplay, it was, an adaptation of the book for the screen. Friedkin's direction was, no, we're going to do the book exactly as it is and just put it on screen, which is why you have things that... There are a couple of moments where characters die, which aren't shown on screen, which it's very frustrating because it's like, wait a minute, that guy's like a relatively main character here. And you have just killed him off screen, and there's just a few things that, maybe if there was like a studio note here or there, you might have addressed that.
I think even moments where characters are shown dying on screen, there's something about it that's just not remotely impactful. It's like
it's not climactic.
And I think it's. Well, there's one death in particular that is obviously the climax of the film, and it's a big moment, and it's just played so. I guess of that 1970s matter of fact, we're just capturing real life like attitude.
Well, it was a documentary style, like Friedkin had made documentaries, and that was part of the style of the time, I suppose. That matter of factness.
I don't care for it at all.
Okay, so there's a character called Burke who is a film director who is killed by the demon in a completely off screen and in a scene that is not set up in any way. We just sort of get the consequence of it, and we don't see anything of it. It's a really weird thing. But the actor who played him, Jack McGowan, died during production. I'm not sure what the timings were, but I thought that might be something to do with it.
Isn't this one of those cursed film bullshit like things because people died during the production? Isn't that one of them?
Oh yeah, they make a big thing out of it. I watched a lot of the behind the scenes stuff on the Blu-ray, and he actually died. Oh, the information on that documentary was that he died after filming had wrapped. Like,
I was trying to give them benefit of the doubt of why that worked so badly, because he wasn't available.
But that's exactly a moment that didn't work for me either, because you kind of forget who the guy even really is. And he's a presence.
Honestly, I literally rewound it 10 minutes to rewatch because I thought I'd missed something. I had to go back and figure out who the Burke character was, because they just said his name, and I was like, who the fuck's that? And then I went back to go, okay, they must have set this up, and I've missed something. And no, they didn't do it at all.
Isn't it astonishing, right? Like, The Exorcist, I feel like its reputation has waned somewhat in recent years, but certainly for a time, this was the go-to, like, trope of scariest film ever made. Because when it came out, people apparently lost their fucking minds and were, like, fainting in cinemas and shit. And I don't know how much of that's just,
well,
marketing,
I tell you what, right?
hyperbole.
I think there was some bits where it did, it had an impact. I got it. And there was bits, they go to a great deal of effort to set up this happy, friendly little girl at the beginning, and it's all fun, and they have this lovely relationship. So when it turns, and there's something about a child corrupted by evil, like this kind of the demonic sense coming from this innocent vessel, which, you get in something like Children of the Corn, just seems like a joke, but
I'll say that the start of Children of the Corn, for my money, is far more disturbing and unsettling than anything in this film, personally. I know it came a good 10 years later, but I don't know. I never really got that the girl was that sweet, and like I don't feel like the film did spend enough time establishing her before corrupting her. And then I don't feel like she's corrupted in like it's like you're handling like a really bratty like 15-year-old boy who's like come off an estate. Do you know what I mean?
That's the point, isn't it? Like the whole
like fuck you, and you cunting cunt, you cunt shit. Cunt.
Yeah.
I'm gonna lick your cunt, stick your dick in my ear, you piece of shit.
That is right. So what I liked about
scary.
it, what I liked about the film in general, and why I like kind of the first sort of 3/4 of the film, is that they're playing up to this idea that it's there's nothing demonic about it. It's not that. It's just it's a young girl having like a schizotic episode or something like, and the mother says, "Oh no, the bed was shaking." Like, yeah, the bed wasn't shaking, love. Okay, it was just like she was moving around, and I like all that stuff, and I like how much they play into that. How much even the priests are going like, well, obviously it's not possession. That's stupid. So the fact that it does turn out to be a demon is kind of a bit annoying, but okay, it's a horror film. But yes, I agree with you that the actual demonic entity is just
remotely scary.
Someone who might have Tourette's and is
There's
just saying whatever seems
where...
inappropriate, like, oh, stick up your ass, your mother.
It's like Johnny Rotten on, like, I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, and he called Anton Deck a pair of cunts because they did a trick, and they were like, oh, come on, Johnny man, come on, that's not... They got really upset with him, but it's like that. It's not scary. There's a bit in particular where they
need it to be more hard-hitting, but it's like, it's that and... Oh, her head turns around, and any of that stuff, it's just a little bit too cartoony for me.
Yeah,
like walking down the stairs and all that.
And I get how like maybe the first time it's shocking, but they go back to that bag of tricks a couple of times. It's like, all right. There's one scene in particular where the priest sits down with the possessed demon girl, and she's all restrained, and they just have a chat, and he's just sort of like, oh, so what's it like in hell? And she's like, left sharp, and he's like, well, okay, and then she like pulls open the drawer of the chest of drawers with her mind, and he's like, oh, do that again, no. Do it again. And it's just like
he goes, why don't you break your bonds if you're such a great demon? He's like, no, I could if I wanted to, but
I could if I wanted, but that'd be a vulgar display of power, I believe the line. But
that's it.
I don't know,
the
it's just
whole
all
point
of that...
is that it's obviously I don't know what William Peter Blatty did, but it's obviously based on these concepts of possessions that people have, and it's just someone who is having like a mental breakdown, or someone like a teenager who's playing up to something and kind of just making shit up on the fly. And it's amazing when you actually look into them how crap and unconvincing they are.
Well, look, I'd like to refer our audience back to our episode on The Conjuring. I think we talk about this at length when they do the Bill bit in The Conjuring 2. It's another great example of what you're saying, where it's just kids fucking about and a load of adults who inexplicably buy into it. But the point is, this is like a horror film, and I'm not even like opposed to a film where people like trap a demon in someone's body and have a conversation about the logistics of possession with them. I just don't think that's scary. I feel like Evil Dead, I think, does a bit of that in the TV series at one point when they get to the point of Lucy Lawless, like as a badass demon killer. But it is a comedy. It's like it kind of makes sense that they can like try and get information out of a demon by like threatening it. It's just not. I don't know. Like there's something to be said for the fear of the unknown. I think when the more tangible you make it, the more you bring it down to the level of, well, if this was real, you would just be able to like sit and chat. It's like, right, well, it's not that scary an entity if all it can do is like sit there yelling at you and swearing at you. It's like, right, well, we're obviously winning if that's all you can do.
I agree that I don't think it's very scary. I think that some of the stuff, like, it will certainly have been shocking when it came out in the 70s, and I think some of the stuff, like when she's like masturbating with that crucifix and she like shoves her own mum in a crotch.
I'm just gonna have to pick you up on that, Calvin, because I've heard people say that the masturbating with a crucifix. If that's what you think masturbating is, then you've got a problem. That's what
they refer to the scene.
I was going to say that's
behind the
not,
scenes.
I didn't take it as, I took it as mutilation, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, they call it the masturbation scene when
sick,
referring to it in the
people on the internet.
I'm sure William Friedkin does, but I don't like him, and I don't care for any of his opinions on anything.
My point is, though, that I do think that
well,
some
it's
of
a
that
sexual
stuff, even by
violence,
today's
isn't it? So
standards,
you're right.
is quite shocking. I think if you were to see something like that in a film,
It's shocking now, certainly, but it's shocking in a kind of, oh, bloody hell, I can't believe they're showing that. Not in a,
oh yeah,
oh, I'm unnerved
agree.
or disturbed or scared. Like, and I don't know, maybe my gauge on what's legitimately scary is totally off. I went to see that new movie Smile recently when it came out, and for my money, it's one of the scariest films I've ever seen, and that's completely thrown my concept of what's scary out of whack, because it's like this really mainstream crass commercial film. It's like, if that's really scary, then maybe my scary perceptor is broken. Maybe I don't know what is scary.
Hey, Calvin used to have a scary smile, but I got it fixed. Invisalign.
Oh, that's mean. God.
Alan, are you possessed by a demon, Alan? Because that's the sort of comment that the little girl was making in this film.
Oh, look at your teeth.
Just while we're on the scariness of the film, this was the only film. My parents were quite liberal when I was growing up as to what films I watched. They generally didn't give a shit. This was the only film that my mum was when I was getting into films when I was 11, 12, 13. She made a point of you will not watch that until you are 18.
Yeah, because
I built this up in my head.
It had
as
a reputation.
oh my god,
yeah.
Well, yeah, because she'll have been a teenager when it came out in the 70s, and it was one of the highest grossing films of all time. Everyone saw this and knew about it, so I guess it has that reputation. But by the time I did eventually get around to watching it, when I was 20, I think, you see so much other stuff that has obviously been influenced by this, and it's oh, this seems kind of tame in comparison.
Yeah,
now.
For the most part, absolutely. But I know what you mean. My mum was like that with the Blair Witch Project and the big main. Oh, Child's Play 3, because the Daily Mail wrote an article about how Jamie Bolger's killers watched it.
Right.
They were the ones that my mum, thinks they're too scary for kids. Ooh.
Maybe she was genuinely worried you might kill a child.
I could point to films that are doing the same sort of stuff that's in this film, doing it better, I would argue, from before this film was made, but they didn't achieve the same degree of mainstream success, and I think that's a big part of it. This one's just mainstream enough to kind of have, it's like Smile is mainstream, but Japanese ghost movie Pulse, which is arguably terrifying, is relatively obscure on the world scene. It's all about how far it can travel while still being very scary, I guess. But I do think it's remarkable how much Sam Raimi camera work is in this film. But then again, it doesn't tonally make any sense in this film. It doesn't fit in this film. It's kind of,
there was a bit of self-conscious camera movement that I don't particularly care for, but
yeah, I don't think it really works here as much as I love Raimi.
I was watching wherever I found it, but it was a very good quality kind of copy of the film. It was really nice, and it really felt like it didn't feel dated. It didn't feel like, oh god, this is all so 70s. I feel like this could have been made in the 90s easily, or just...
I think the pacing is incredibly of the 70s.
Yes,
I think that's the giveaway.
But I quite like that. I'm all right with that. Let me ask you a question. I think, Calvin, you might know, you've watched all the behind the scenes stuff. So that film director character who dies, is that supposed to be Roman Polanski?
Oh, right.
Because he's kind of this
little
kind
of
of
vibe of him, isn't there?
He's putting on a European. The guy's Irish, the actor. He's putting on a European accent and kind of slagging off the Nazis. So I'm presuming he's supposed to be Jewish. But
yeah, you'd have to be Jewish to take issue with the Nazis. Everyone else loves him.
Well, mate, in the 40s, that character felt like this petulant European director, and then. We don't know exactly what happened, but he's left alone with a 12-year-old child, goes into her bedroom, and does something that gets him killed. So I'm just, I don't know, I was just maybe reading too much into that.
It's a very weird tangent that there is a story behind that they just don't even touch upon, which is weird, I think. How that character ends up in that room, because I think the last time we see him in the film,
he's getting thrown out for being
Bernstein's drunk. He's just been very unpleasant with her butler or whatever he is, and he gets chucked out for being too drunk, and then we don't see him again, and here he's dead, and that's that.
Yeah, and the other woman who lives in the house, she's just like, oh, he was the only one here. I had to go to the pharmacist, so I just left him in charge of the child.
Yeah.
Even though he's not allowed out of Switzerland now.
Yeah.
Fun fact, the actor, Jack McGarren, I did a stage combat course with his daughter a couple of years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, that's interesting. Did she give you any behind-the-scenes intel?
No, I didn't even know. I mean, I didn't recognise the name or anything, and it's just because I've got her on Facebook and she's mentioned it a couple of times, she's talked about it. So. But she must have been very young when he died, because she wasn't that old.
I was going to say, yeah, because he died not long after filming of this, so 1973, I guess.
Yeah, she was, yeah. I wouldn't have said she was 50, so yeah.
Ellen Bernstein is an interesting character I think she's the lead. I mean, she was the one nominated for Best Actress for this, and to make that character quite a liberal, cosmopolitan actress of some repute, I thought was an interesting choice. I think your go-to would just be to make this a everyday kind of family. I find it quite strange that she's a celebrity, really, but nothing much comes as a result of that.
Yeah, there's just a nice scene where the guy asks for her autograph and does the whole, "Oh, my daughter's a big fan. Would you do an autograph?" Oh, what's her name? It's actually for me. It's a nice little moment.
I did think that she was really good in it, though. It is, for me, the performances that do kind of elevate it above what is relatively rote sort of demon
real
horror stuff at this point.
Vibe to it all, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that kind of acting.
Yeah. And Linda Blair's fantastic as well. I couldn't believe how much of that stuff she was actually doing herself.
Oscar nominee.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 13 years old.
I should clarify for this performance. That was a whole thing, wasn't it?
What, that she got nominated?
Yeah, because her voice is dubbed, but the
parts, but
the possessed demon voice is dubbed in. And the possessed demon voice was uncredited, and it was a whole controversy at the Oscars apparently that they didn't realize that she'd dubbed the voice in, even though it's clear to just fucking watch the film.
I was gonna say, God,
come on,
yeah.
But apparently the original actor had to end up suing Warner Brothers to get credit as the voice of the demon.
That's your old additional voices bit, though, isn't it? You come in, you do your 2 hours in the studio, and you. Yeah.
Well, allegedly, according to William Friedkin, she originally didn't want to be credited because she wanted to keep the fear alive, scare people more. Ooh. But I don't know how much to believe that.
Well, can I ask Calvin? Jason Miller, who is other potential lead, definitely the one with an emotional journey. Father Karras. Who the hell is he?
Yes,
I've never seen him in anything else. Who is that?
William Friedkin, I think I'm remembering this right. He saw him in a play in New York, and I think he already had some kind of connection to the church, or he was a Christian or something like that. Because I think William Friedkin, sort of thinking in a documentary, from a documentary standpoint, wanted to get a priest that could act.
Well, I know there's a couple of priests in there, and the Father Dyer, he's a real priest. And does a damn fine bit of acting, if I dare say so.
Yeah. But he certainly wanted, I think, the studio were pushing, Jack Nicholson type of stars, but Friedkin wanted someone a bit more anonymous.
Specifically Nicholson, wasn't it, at one point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like it. I think, and it falls into that what was happening at the time in this little particular wave of cinema, that much more naturalistic style. And like an actor that is the character because you've never seen him in anything else. There's no compromise there.
Well, actually, Alan, this may have been his first film, but he did go on to star in The Exorcist 3. So, I can tell you've not seen that
did he?
one. Yeah, I say star. I'm being he had a small cameo type role, I believe. Well, he's fourth billed actually. It's been a while since I watched it.
But it's interesting, Alan, that you I cited he's the one with an arc here, and I do agree. I think it becomes his film, and I think if you weren't straight, just trying to adapt a novel like completely faithfully, page to screen, you would finesse things a bit to make it more his film.
Absolutely, you would open on a scene with him instead of an excavation in Iraq.
With a character you don't see again for an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Who is the title character? Like, Max von Sydow is the Exorcist. He's on the poster. He's that character. It's bizarre to me that he's like hardly in this, and he doesn't do all that much when he does show up. He another character that dies off screen.
Yeah, even in the end, obviously he's a big part of the climactic, third act, but even that, he doesn't, like, it could very easily rewrite that so that Father Karras does all that. Like, there's no reason to have him, and he has to stand up to this demon and kind of face his mother, the fears of his mother or whatever it is. So yeah, weird, very weird that it's just bringing in this other guy, or you bring in another guy and he gets killed, and so then Karras has to stand up, and which I guess is what happens, but in a bit more of a structured sense.
Isn't all that mother stuff really like maybe in 1973 that was also, unexpected and shocking.
I knew you were going to. Well, you've not been nitpicky so far, but I thought I would. I was wondering what you would make of the rules of this particular demon and what it can and can't do.
It's inconsistent, but demons are inconsistent by their very nature, aren't they? It's fine.
It's that thing where it knows the voice to replicate, but it doesn't know the name of the person or details about the person. Like he says at one point, "Do you know my mother's maiden name or something?" And it freaks out because it doesn't know. And you could replicate its voice perfectly. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but that's what I liked about like tying into that whole idea of these are actually just people who are going a bit mental or people who are faking it because they're just doing cold reading on you.
Okay, but
if you actually try and pin them down, they've got no answer. That's
not in the film, Alan. That's not like
in film it's actually a demon. So I don't know how that works. It's just a demon who can overhear things every now and then.
But if we want to get nitpicky, then obviously the demon can like move a chest of drawers around a room with the power of its mind every now and then, but like it never just like picks up a guy and throws him out the window with the power of telekinesis, or like just picks up a knife and you know what I mean? It's very I don't know. If it really wanted to do some damage, then it probably
that's it.
Could
And you
do
never
it a lot
you
more
never really get
effectively.
the idea that it's just fucking with them. Like it could at any point just like snap your head off.
Yeah.
Is too mischievous for that.
And that's it. I think that would play well, but it always kind of seems like the demon is frustrated at the fact that it's being made, impotent in a sense by being tied down.
Maybe it's just a tired thing, like because it opens that drawer just to try and prove a point, and the guy's just like, "What? You can open a drawer? I'm supposed to be impressed." And then it's just like, "Oh, I'm a bit knackered now. I can't do it again." So maybe it's just like. It's like anyone, you need to.
But even that plays like a naughty kid who's been told to go to bed because it's like the most minor. It's not like later on it smashes the door like down the middle and makes a crease appear, and it's like, all right, that's kind of impressive. That's like a good show of force.
That was under great duress, though, wasn't it? That's when it's being compelled by the power of Christ, and it's freaking out. You get unnaturally strong water in those moments.
I guess so. Do we have to it's again? I mean, I think it's the style of the time, but they say the power of Christ compels you like 40 times in a row. It's like, oh my god, we get it.
Yeah, but they said that this guy's done an exorcism before, and it took months. And then they do this whole bit, and then he's like, "Oh, let's go and have a rest. We'll start again tomorrow." It's like they just do this every day for months.
Yeah, he's come out there. He doesn't want it to be over too soon. He's probably paid by the day.
Yes. Hey, do you know what I never knew? I assume is not just made up for this film.
He's part of the church, isn't he? He won't be getting paid by the day. He'll get like a nice per diem. He's got a cushy thing when he's on business.
Yeah, paying for the hotel or whatever.
Yeah.
But how come, since when are the Catholic Church, getting their priests trained as archaeologists and psychiatrists? Like, I thought they just went to churches and sort of went, "Hey, God's great, isn't it?" Why are they inveigling themselves into art and science?
You probably have a lot of extra time, I guess, to pursue these other things. Like, even Father Karras is Dr. Father Karras or Father Dr. Karras or something.
Well, that's what he said. She says, "Why is a psychiatrist a priest?" And he says, "It was the other way around. They paid for my medical studies."
But going way back to like the dawn of science, weren't a lot of scientists like clergymen to begin with, because they were people who didn't have to toil in the fields and had a lot of free time to just fuck about, basically. Like, what it was pretty much your aristocracy and your like,
yeah, but not in the 70s.
No, but maybe
precedent is what you're
maybe
saying.
There's a tradition within Catholicism that stems down from that
But I'm just saying, if I was at an architectural dig in Iran and a priest turned up, I'd be like, "What? Why?"
Well, they certainly in the 70s had a lot of money to piss about with, and
I just didn't know. I mean, obviously that's what they were playing at, but I didn't know anything about that.
It's a good way to get your claws into people. You just insert a little priest here, and he'll go.
Yeah, but then it becomes like,
what, you like music too? I like music. Did you know music was a way you can worship God? You just get them there so that when people are vulnerable, they can pounce.
Yeah, but that's it just seems weird. Like, I just didn't know. I thought priests just hung around in churches and that.
I think typically they do.
I think you can take Max von Sydow out of this film, like, quite easily. Refilm the end stuff with Father Karras, maybe the mother in there as well for that emotional engagement.
Streamline it. I'm totally with you. But I do like the little buddy cop, like, this is the start of a beautiful. Do you want to go to the cinema? Not really. I'm not into movies. I just want to hang out then, because it was just a pretense. Yeah, I'll hang out. Oh, cool.
I liked the detective, Lee J. Cobb as the detective, whatever he is. I really like that character, sort of like a proto Columbo, just kind of needling people and trying to get information out of them.
I wanted more of those two, if I'm honest. I would restructure the whole film to be about their budding friendship, like really go in on that. They should remake this film with Seth Rogen, and you're not allowed James Franco anymore. Jay Burrell or whatever he's called, that one.
Baruchel.
Yeah. They should do them.
Well, that character, that scene, going to the cinema together or whatever, isn't in the theatrical version. It's just that other father just goes and looks at the steps and then walks off.
Yeah, he tries that on with Karras earlier, doesn't he? He's like, "Oh, do you want to go out? Get your
desperate.
Yes, he does.
Desperate for friends."
Yeah. He's an interesting character. Sort of, I feel like he connects some dots for Ellen Burstyn. I think he's the one that sort of gives her the impetus to get an exorcism, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly.
She's meeting with a bunch of psychiatrists and they say, "Look,
yes.
We're not sure what it is. Have you tried exorcism?"
Oh shit! Yeah,
yes.
Yeah,
you're quite right. I feel like he does do something that makes her do something else, though. Like, I feel like that's his primary purpose, because otherwise he is.
I don't know.
I think he's because he comes in with all of the details about what happened to Burke and how his head was twisted around and how it must have been a man that did it, and I think that's what convinces her that, oh shit, this is like, she physically could not, my daughter could physically not have done that. There must be some like supernatural force at work here.
I mean, I like the character, but again, streamline this. Spielberg would have had that character out. He wouldn't have messed about with that. He would have got this down. Or make something more of it. Make that. Bring him in. Because it does. That goes nowhere. None of that goes anywhere.
Yeah, it's odd how many sort of loose tangents there are, and I guess I've not read the book, but maybe it kind of works as a book, I suppose. But
and then you've got the other people living in the house, and they just don't add enough to justify them being there. There's the old Nazi, or what he's accused of being a Nazi, and he's just going around like, "There's no rats in the attic," and and then there's a younger woman there. I guess is like an au pair type thing, is she?
I think so. Yeah, I guess she's there to babysit basically and teach while.
Or just
Ellen
leave the
Bernstein's
child
at
with a
work.
stranger.
Well, I took her as kind of like maybe a PA, like entourage kind of thing for this actress. She probably does have a job with her, but you think like, oh well, their body count then basically, like they're gonna, the demon's gonna fuck with them, but no, it's kind of odd, really.
Yeah, the all right, when when the guy comes in and he says, "Oh, you haven't heard, Burke is dead."
Yeah.
I thought Burke was the old guy who worked in the house.
Ah, right, yes.
Because it wasn't him bringing the news, it was some other guy who I didn't know who that was. So I thought they were talking about him. Yeah. Anyway, it's all those characters need to be fleshed out, or get them out of the way, or do something with it. But not what you're actually doing.
Yeah,
and it's
and yet the film won an Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay.
Well,
but I kind of want to talk about that because this is very much part of what is now called elevated horror, I guess, meaning horror that kind of breaks through into the mainstream, like in that it's like respected as real cinema. It, as I say, it's on IMDb's top 250 currently. There's not a lot of horror movies on there. You've got Alien, you've got The Sixth Sense, but you've not got Night of the Living Dead isn't on there, for example. And it was at the Oscars, and again, like horror movies never turn up at the Oscars.
And it wasn't wasn't just a little, adapted screenplay nod. It was what, 8?
It was 10? A heavy,
nominations
10
or something.
Yeah, it was a heavy
10
hitting
nominations
film at the Oscars that year. Yeah, it was like a proper contender, and that's just not normal. And I don't really know. Do you have any idea as to why, like, this particular film broke through in that regard? Because
well, I mean, it was obviously like incredibly popular, and I think that this was at a point where if you did have a big box office smash, the Academy would take notice. Because this was tied with The Sting as the most nominated film of the Oscars in 1974. And in major categories as well, Best Picture, Best Director, Screenplay. Ellen Bernstein was nominated, Linda Blair, of course. Like, it did, I think it, it was seen as quite a almost pro-Catholic film in a way, wasn't it? And I do wonder how much of that pro-religious element of it helped it with these kinds of, particularly in the US. But saying that, it's Catholicism, isn't it? And I don't know how... by this point, they'd had Kennedy. He was a Catholic, wasn't he?
Yeah, they still liked Catholicism in the 70s. Like, they still had a lot of sway. I've just looked through IMDb's top 250 and dug out anything that I would consider a horror film, and there's not many of them. Alien, The Sixth Sense, The Thing, The Exorcist.
Wow. God.
Yeah, well, there you go. You guys watch the sequels?
I've definitely seen bits of it in the past, but I couldn't tell you much about it, sequels-wise. I know there's quite a few of them.
I went through and watched them all once, and I mean, The Exorcist 2, famously dreadful, and it is. The Exorcist 3 has a reputation for kind of being one of these underappreciated sequels. It's got a lot of, like, cult followers. I think it's shit, like, really bad. I don't know what people are talking about. And then The Exorcist 4 and 5 are this like fascinating fascinating like nubbins in Hollywood where they basically made a movie, took it out of the director's control, reshot most of it, and then the new version did so badly that they ended up like releasing the original version as well to try and recoup some money. I'm
fascinated. Yeah, I mean, this is the main
Paul
reason
Schrader.
why I want to finally get through these films.
Yeah, Paul Schrader.
I think Rennie Harlan was
a lot.
Right. Okay. I think Rennie Harlan was the director that was brought in to.
Yeah. Paul Schrader was the original director who has a history of films being taken away from him by.
He also has a history of being a bit of a crotchety old git.
Yeah.
But there is a new one in the works from what's his name, who directed the recent Halloween trilogy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've already filmed Ellen Bernstein's bits because she's really old now, and they didn't have a completed script, so they filmed her bits like 6 months ago.
Wait, what is she playing? Is she playing Pazuzu?
There's no the same character. They're doing a similar thing that they did to Halloween, where it's kind of like a requel sort of deal. So it's a continuation, but also going to be doing the film again. Basically, is what I understand.
I'm intrigued for that, purely based on the director. Yeah, interesting.
When's that happening then?
I think they're filming now. I think it's potentially going to be released next Halloween.
David Gordon Green, yes.
David Gordon Green.
Yeah, so yeah, he's very interesting.
I like him. Yeah, I think he's
it's
a very interesting
it's a
filmmaker.
Blumhouse.
Yeah, well, it seems to be his next Blumhouse project after finishing the Halloween films. So, yeah. Anyway, that should be interesting because it's despite this film's reputation, you would have thought it'd have more sequels to its name. To be honest, you would have thought it'd be like a Halloween or a Hellraiser or Children of the Corn, anything like that.
You'd think it would either be a film with like no sequels or like a million of them, but I guess it came just a bit before. It's pre-Star Wars, isn't it? So it's kind of before Hollywood had quite figured out the machine, as it were. And I think every now and then, every few years, they try and.
Well, this is more like the Psycho style sequels, isn't it? Just years later, go, can we make some money out of that?
Well, much like Psycho, we probably should mention that for the last however many years, there was an Exorcist TV show on the go, which I've heard is very good.
I had no idea about this.
Do you know, it ran from, I say the last few years, it ran from 2016 to 2018, 2 seasons. But I've heard very good things about it. I think it got abruptly cancelled without like a proper ending, just to warn you. Gina Davis is in it, Calvin.
Oh.
But I mean, so they made sequels. They made The Exorcist 2 fairly swiftly in 1977, 4 years later. Then I think that film was so shit that it kind of killed the franchise in its tracks. Then they came back with The Exorcist 3 in 1990, let it cool off for a bit. Again, while that film has a cult following, it's pretty shit, and I don't think it's massively well regarded, so I don't think it like re-sparked the franchise. It lay dormant for another 10 years, and then they tried again with that Exorcist prequel, and that was, that's one of the most fascinating fuck-ups in like Hollywood history, the fact that the same movie got like released twice in different it's the Zack Snyder's Justice League, like before it happened, basically. And that I think again killed the franchise for 10 years. Then they made a TV show, so it's just like every 10 years or so they kind of take another shot at it, and I don't think the TV show was successful either. So yeah,
I guess it's difficult when the main selling point of it is something that is not trademarkable, I suppose. Like
totally
other films have done exorcisms. There's no character in here. There's no Jason. There's no Michael Myers. There's
even the word exorcist. Like you can do the exorcism of Emily Rose, and like it's close enough, and it doesn't matter that if it's officially part of this canon or not. Yeah,
exactly. So I guess it's difficult to. I've heard that Well, I don't know if Pazuzu factors into the other sequels. I know that's the name that they gave to the demon after the first film. It's not in the first film, that name, but I don't know if that's the character that they're going to try and make the Jigsaw. I don't think it's in the first film, is it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Actually, now you've said
I don't remember a character ever saying it.
Interesting.
Hey, do you know what I just thought when you were talking about doing this with Seth Rogen?
Yeah.
David Gordon Green, he's in with all that crowd, isn't he? The Rogen Franco lot.
Well,
Danny McBride.
Danny McBride was one of the people who got the Halloween reboot off the ground. He wrote it with him, didn't he? The first one. Is that right?
Yeah, I think he's going to be writing on the Exorcist film.
Oh, really?
Is he could he be a Max von Sydow type?
What, Danny McBride?
Yeah.
Well, he didn't put himself in those Halloween movies.
I know, and a damn shame for it.
Apart from, as I said in our episode where we covered it, I'm convinced that is him doing the vocal audio dubbing of one character very briefly at one point. Still can't find any confirmation of that either way. Speaking of Halloween, I was going to see Halloween Ends today, and I couldn't see it because this film.
Oh, I was going to ask you, because I'd be interested to know what you think of it. I really loved it, but that's not a popular sentiment.
I think I'm going to really like it, because I completely forgot that I had this sentiment, but then I went back and looked on my Letterboxd review, and apparently Halloween Kills was my favourite Halloween movie up until now, I guess.
Oh, interesting. You might like Ends then. I didn't like Kills when I first saw it, but I rewatched it before Ends, and it's really gone up in my estimations, and it very much carries on from that. Like, the marketing is all Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers' final showdown. It is not that film at all. I'm not surprised that people are a bit annoyed by being hoodwinked by the marketing that way, but I really
like that.
Connected with what they did.
That's totally my thing. Just do some random fucking shit and pretend it's a Halloween movie. Brilliant.
Yeah, which is exactly what they did. I mean, to be honest, like, looking back on the whole trilogy, it feels like they were kind of forced to have Jamie Lee Curtis in it at all, and they could have just done it without her, but anyway.
So it's an interesting relic, I think, of cinema for the reasons I've gone into, the kind of way that it's a horror film that, you know, really permeated the mainstream, and not in a kind of Blair Witch or Human Centipede, like, hey, have you heard about this movie kind of way, in like a legitimate, people are going to go and see this film, even though it's like they might not normally watch horror movies kind of way.
This is a film you know your mum went to see, this is the horror film. Yeah, on a date.
And as we say, it was, it's inarguably very influential. I really love demonic horror, just like conceptually. Again, like I love the Evil Dead movies very much. And, I love a lot of films playing in that territory. And this was, there are films I could point to from the 60s and before this in the 70s that were doing that. But this inarguably kind of set the tone, I think, and a lot of the tropes were established here for what a demon movie is. So I've got to give it some degree of credit. I think it's an interesting little artifact, but it just doesn't resonate with me as a film. I don't find it particularly well. I find portions of it very entertaining, but I find portions of it very dry and boring, and it's kind of like you have to sift through to get to the good shit for me. So I guess I'm gonna jump into a rating.
Yeah.
But can I go last? Because I've not really decided what I'm going to give it yet.
Well, I think I kind of largely agree with you, what you've said there. And obviously we've picked it apart a little bit. But I think ultimately there is something about it that's very effective. And I was drawn in, and it was kind of like, I don't know about scary particularly, but yeah, I'm not going to be thinking this film when I'm walking down to the bathroom in the middle of the night. That's where the Sixth Sense gets me, right? but there's something about it that's very effective, and I think it's down to the character interactions. I think I like all that stuff. I like the naturalistic acting and the kind of realistic characters. Yeah. I actually find all the exorcism stuff and the demon-y bits a bit crap, frankly. I'm not really into all that. But yeah, it really works. And I gave it an 8 out of 10.
Oh, wow.
I think we all have the same broad reaction to this then, because I agree. Like, I think the film has a terrific mood, and there's an atmosphere to it that is really I found really engrossing. I wasn't bored at any point when I was watching it, even though there were long stretches where I felt like nothing was really happening. I suppose I wish that it had had a bit of a tighter structure. I basically wish that someone other than Friedkin had allowed Blatty to adapt his novel, because he was a screenwriter, like mainly for comedies. He was a screenwriter on A Shot in the Dark, the Pink Panther film.
Oh, Alan, you love that film.
Yes, I thought that when I saw that in the making of.
Listeners, Alan has been rewatching or watching for the first time, I guess, all of the Pink Panther movies and like sending us angry WhatsApp messages just out of the blue.
The worst franchise I've ever watched.
We didn't ask for any of this. He's just randomly been messaging us every now and then, like, fucking hate farce, fucking hate Peter Sellers. What the fuck?
I'm looking forward to the Steve Martin years. I think that's going to really pick up.
Oh. So I guess that my issues with it are more screenplay based than anything else. Because I agree with Alan. I think there's the naturalistic acting. I think that the cast and the quality of the performance really does elevate it, the whole material. Despite that, I'm gonna give it a 7 because it does fall into a bit of that category of I admire it perhaps more than I enjoy it, even though there are big swathes of it. But much like Alan again, when it does get into the demonic stuff towards the end, I find that so much less effective than Ellen Burstyn hearing some scratching going on in the attic and that kind of stuff, which I think is much scarier.
Yeah. I'm with you as well. Like, I love demonic shit with demons yelling and flying around and so on, but I think it's down to how it's shot here and handled, because I also kind of tune out. I don't really enjoy the full-on supernatural side of this, and I agree. I'm more interested in the characters and so on. I just find it so dry for the first kind of hour before they get to the right, let's get an Exorcist like part of it. I don't know. I had this down as a 7 out of 10, and that was always a very weak, like 6.5 rounded up kind of 7. And I don't know if I want to. Go on, it's Halloween. We'll all be generous, giving out our treats. I'll leave it as a 7. I was toying with knocking it down to a 6, but you know, one thing we haven't even spoken about yet is the music as well. It's obviously got an incredibly iconic theme tune, which is part of its legacy as well. You know, it's a solid bit of music. I prefer the music from from Exorcist 2 that what's he called? My favorite composer, Ennio Morricone. I prefer the music he wrote for Exorcist 2. But you know, this is a pretty good theme as well. So yeah, all right, let's do it. 7 out of 10. Let's be. All right. Well, there you go. I guess that's pretty positive to say. I feel like we've been complaining for an hour.
Yeah.
But I think like we say, I think we're all kind of, maybe not so much Alan, but I feel like a lot of it is more respect based than enjoyment based this time round. And we typically land on the side of fuck it when that happens. I think, you know, that we weren't very nice about The Godfather and Blade Runner and stuff, but whatever, we'll be nice. We've been away for 5 months. We can't come back and just be nasty. So,
well, when will you be back? Will I be back with you as well?
Meet again?
Are we doing Christmas?
I don't know. Christmas seems like a logical one, doesn't it?
Hooray.
You want to do Christmas?
What can we do? What's a good Christmas film? Miracle on 34th.
Die Hard 3.
Santa Buddies.
Oh, we're doing that, aren't we, Alan?
Well, who knows?
We'll see. Yeah, look out for us possibly discussing Santa buddies in
We
podcast
weren't even
form.
doing Santa Buddies. We were doing Space Buddies because you.
Oh shit! You're
said
right.
you
We're doing
wanted to do
Space Buddies.
even though it was Christmas.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. We might be talking about Space Buddies soon, Alan and I, for Christmas.
That's why we should do Santa Buddies on here.
Yeah, we should make it like a tie-in. Calvin, are you lost?
A little bit, yes, but that's fine. I know that you're talking about those films with the dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Exorcist, eh? Oh, they should do a film called The Exorcist, but it's the X-assist, and it's about Matthew McConaughey back in his rom-com phase, having to deal with his ex-girlfriend's ghost possessing someone in the house, and he has to get the exorcist in. She's only a bloody lady priest. Hey, you see where this is going?
No.
Nope.
Do they have lady priests yet? No, it's vicars, isn't it? They have lady.
We do an Anglican exorcism, and it's
Yeah,
Dawn French exercising whoever's still alive from the rest of that. I don't think there's any of them. James Fleet is the only one who's still alive in Vicar of Dibley, so it'll have to be him. She exercises him,
and then she eats 3 dinners by mistake for not wanting to upset people.
And she goes, "Exercise? Oh, I don't do exercise." That's the big hitter.
Oh god, Alan, you should sell that to Richard Curtis. That you can sell like jokes to hacky comedians a lot of the time. I reckon he'll buy that off you.
I'm surprised Vicar of Dibley hadn't done a Exorcist. So they must have done a joke at least.
I think they've probably done that exact joke before, but it was just in like a normal Halloween episode or something. If only there was a British sitcom expert here who could clarify.
No idea.
I've just found a film on IMDb called The Sexorcist from 1974.
Ooh, nice.
So that's back when porn was in cinemas, I guess, is it?
Oh yeah.
A female reporter for an occult magazine investigates a story about a murderous devil cult. Starring
anything to do with exorcisms.
Starring Ava Gallant.
French. They are dirty, those French.
As Janice Lightning. Lily Lamar as Diane Tracy.
Diane Thunder.
Kelly Guthrie as Professor Ernest von Kleinschmidt.
No, that's a sitcom character.
Wow, I want to check this out. We should have watched this instead. Do they do? I mean, exorcisms happen in like basically every religion, to my knowledge. Like most religions believe in demons of some sort. Don't
because
they?
all religions have people in them who have mental illnesses.
Yeah. So, are there any films you're aware of where it's not a Catholic like thing? Like I know Islamic exorcisms is quite a big thing, but I think they often think it's jinns rather than demons, but they're basically the same thing.
Your Muslims not quite penetrated the Hollywood system yet, have they?
Well, they wouldn't want to make movies of it because, like, basically, if you're Muslim, most Muslim people I've met actually believe in jinns and are scared of them, so they wouldn't want to make a film about it because it would be seen as like inviting a jinn to like fuck with you. It'd be like asking for trouble. But I mean, I can't think of any like Protestant exorcist movies either, or I don't know. I guess there's stuff like Evil Dead where it's just kind of non-denominational, just demons in it.
I was really trying to think there, but yeah, like I think even Exorcism of Emily Rose, yeah, all that kind
Catholic,
of stuff.
I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
There you go, Exorcist. Ding 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 boom. Is that Halloween that I'm doing, or is it The Exorcist?
Yes. Yeah, no, that was Halloween.
Okay,
Exorcist is...
Exorcist.
No, wait.
No, we're gonna get it. Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, bing bong. All right, see ya.
Right, bye.